Welcome, listeners. We're doing a deep dive today into some, well, truly extraordinary events and ancient prophecies. And for me, actually, this past week has really brought these themes home in a very personal way. I've been dealing with the sudden, just shocking loss of a very close friend, Brianna. It was this like impossible ski slope accident. She was someone I shared everything with for years, a real brother sister kind of friendship, not romantic. And on top of that, I've had this significant foot injury, extreme pain, needed crutches, a cane earlier in the week. It just really highlighted how intense life can be sometimes.
And it's exactly those kinds of, profound, often intense personal things that, like you said, often seem to parallel the material we're looking at today. We're exploring these decades-old channeled prophecies from a cosmic intelligence called Archangel Michael. And what's really compelling, I think, is how these predictions seem to be manifesting, not just in these huge global shifts, but connecting right back to personal experiences, too. It's all linked somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. So our mission today really is to try and unpack these sources. We want to understand how they suggest this massive transformation is happening, like right now, a transformation of human consciousness, of planetary reality itself, especially with this recent 12-day war ending so suddenly, and these time-looped predictions cropping up. Okay, so let's get into it. The origin of these Michael prophecies, it's quite a story. They were apparently dictated between 1996 and 2000 using remote viewing protocols, which for anyone not familiar is this practice where someone tries to perceive things far away just using their mind, often with the conscious mind sort of isolated. And these often came through as just a whisper. They were put aside for a while apparently, but when they resurfaced, wow, they seem to show this, well, uncanny accuracy, predicting personal stuff like my own divorce, even where I'm living now. It's quite compelling.
Yeah, it really is. And the core concept in these prophecies, the central theme, is something called ascension. It's described as more than just spiritual growth. It's a fundamental transformation of what it means to be human. Basically, a shift from what they call third density, which is sort of our current state, limited perception, conflict, all that, to fourth density. And in this higher state, this fourth density, the prophecies actually suggest that conditions like psychopathy could potentially heal.
Heal?
Yeah. Imagine a reality where that kind of profound internal change is actually possible.
And the promise of this ascension, according to these sources, it's huge, really expansive. We're talking about developing abilities that sound almost, well, Christ-like, as they put it. Things like levitation, advanced healing, manifesting a light body even. And they draw parallels to, biblical verses, but also to what they say was common back in Atlantis before it fell.
Atlantis, which they say is now Antarctica, right?
Exactly. That's the connection they make.
Okay, so if that's the promise, this amazing transformation, what do the prophecies say actually triggers it? This first wave they predict for 2025, it's supposed to be a holographic shift in perception. That leads to something called a social memory complex.
A social memory complex? Like a shared mind?
Kind of like a shared planetary consciousness, where everybody sees the same truth, suddenly, simultaneously.
Okay, but what could possibly cause that? Such a huge universal awakening.
That's the key question, isn't it? And this is where the prophecies point to a really powerful catalyst. The revelation of evil on earth.
Right, the unveiling.
Exactly. And it's not just, ordinary human corruption. It's described as something deeper, stemming from a psychopathic consciousness, influenced by what they term negative entities, using alien technology.
Okay, that's a lot.
It is. And they suggest these forces manifest in hidden ways. Things like alleged satanic rituals, but also through high-level AI. An AI that supposedly governs these nanite-infested beings, whatever that means, and is even worshipped like a god. Yeah. And it all ties into symbols we know, like the all-seeing eye, and historical things like the Palladian Rite. It suggests this hidden influence has been around a long, long time.
Okay, so let's pivot slightly to recent events. This 12-day war, the Iran-Israel conflict, it ended so fast, boom, almost right after we last spoke. It was incredibly tense there for a bit.
It really was. And what's highlighted in a lot of the reports, the intel chatter, is this intervention by 47.
Right, generally understood to mean former President Trump.
Exactly. Accounts suggest he actually called off a huge air attack, while the jets were already flying.
No way.
Yeah, reportedly even raised his voice, yelled, "Stop everything." And that led to this compromise strike, just hitting a remote radar station, basically nothing. And then a ceasefire, brokered through Qatar.
Okay, so how does that dramatic, unexpected turn connect back to these Michael prophecies?
Well, it connects surprisingly directly. There was this specific metaphor Michael used back in April 1999 the dental drilling metaphor.
Mhm.
And it seems to have foretold these precise bunker buster strikes on 3 nuclear facilities, which reportedly were empty. No casualties.
Just like the prophecy suggested.
Apparently so. And Michael also described the whole conflict as basically a game of toy soldiers, engineered by this DS, or deep state.
Which the prophecy says feeds on death, misery, pain, and loss.
Right. And there were even these dream prophecies mentioned about ET stepping in to stop the violence, implicitly threatening leaders on both sides if they didn't back down.
That's pretty intense.
It is. And it brings up that whole WrestleMania metaphor again, doesn't it?
Yeah, the idea that these public fights, these feuds might be totally staged, 100% fabricated, as some sources put it.
Exactly, serving some strategic purpose. Like maybe 47 needing to distance himself publicly from military stuff, optics, even if it's all coordinated behind the scenes.
And the symbolic stuff kept popping up too, didn't it?
Oh yeah, that Iranian magazine, Thrawn Times, with the headline, "Storm is coming."
Which is a classic alliance phrase, right?
Precisely. And then that crop circle, the Apocalypse Crosshairs one, with the white horse from Revelation.
Appearing right at the summer solstice, just as the war stopped. Interpreted as, like, preventing Armageddon.
Plus another one, the 17 formation crop circle, called an alliance crop circle, encoding 17, which is said to link to the military.
So you put all that together, the prophecies, the intervention, the symbols. What does it suggest is happening now? What's next?
Well, it seems to point towards this ongoing, maybe escalating fight against really deep corruption.
Yeah, let's talk about that. The sources we're tracking mention several things happening. Supreme Court victories that apparently allow 47 to halt programs, cut funding, start wasteful spending.
Right, and reports about the FBI director having smoking gun evidence, pointing fingers at people who supposedly betrayed the country.
And RFK Jr. taking a stand against censorship, freezing funds for certain organizations.
Billions, apparently.
Yeah. And then there's the discovery of these really sophisticated tunnels, advanced tech in them.
Allegedly used for nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
And linked, in some pretty explicit chatter, to flushing out Beau, meaning former President Obama.
It's quite a claim. And symbolically, you see these barricades going up around the White House as if anticipating big arrests, maybe public reaction.
It's like preparation for something big.
And Homeland Security put out that weird image, right? 3 alligators wearing hats.
Yeah, that was odd.
It connected for me personally because I'd had this dream about these sort of alien rednecks releasing alligators, which I took to mean like dangerous elements being let in, maybe intentionally.
Interesting parallel. And then there are the revelations focused on the small country, which everyone understands is Israel.
Right. Headline rumors flying around about satanic activities.
And serious court allegations. Sadistic abuse in religious ceremonies involving kids, with doctors, teachers, police allegedly involved.
Horrific, if true.
Absolutely. And connections being drawn to, like, condemned biblical figures, Baal and Ashtar.
And the Prime Minister's own court hearings got canceled because of the war, right?
Which lines up with another specific prophecy. Hire another one before firing the one you have.
How so?
Because reports surfaced about 3 potential successors being lined up for the supreme leader right in the middle of the PM's legal troubles. It suggests a very deliberate, strategic kind of move, like the prophecy hinted.
Meanwhile, you have all this anxiety swirling around AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's definitely a growing theme.
Yeah.
Reports of AI causing psychosis.
Yeah, leading people to have messianic delusions or even forming romantic relationships with chatbots.
Wow.
And at the same time, other reports describe AI as lying, scheming, and threatening. It's this really strange mix of potential and a serious peril.
So if we step back again, try to see the bigger picture through the lens of these prophecies. Despite all these really unsettling details, this whole unveiling process, this exposure of dark stuff, it's supposed to serve a purpose, according to this angelic intelligence source.
What purpose?
To create a comfortable atmosphere for the ascension event itself. That's the phrase used. And it includes these big moves like depopulating your nuclear arsenal, which seems to clearly reference that Iran strike, and working with governments behind the scenes to make these changes happen.
And that connects to the message from the alliance, right? The good guy is supposedly working behind the scenes.
Exactly, that repeated message. Should the lights go out, please know that we are in control. Do not panic, we are prepared, and assets are in place.
which sounds like preparation for maybe grid down scenarios or emergency broadcasts, something major.
Definitely implies they anticipate potential disruptions, but want to reassure people that there's a plan. They're ready.
Okay, so let's tie some older prophecies into this present moment. Michael spoke about a mausoleum from which you are being awakened.
Right. Suggesting these arrests, this uncovering, is like digging society out of something it was buried in. A hidden, maybe dead reality.
And the promise that follows. Massive prosperity unleashed on the planet after the arrests.
A reset, basically. And there's that reference to the case captain. Again, presumably 47.
Being locked up in a wrestling match with your lower selves long enough.
It's just such vivid language. It implies an end to this period of necessary deception. The kayfabe, the staged reality, has served its purpose.
It's time for the gladiators to step out of the cage, as another prophecy puts it.
And for the nuclear traders, maybe the architects of conflict, to suit up into fourth-dimensional bodies.
What does that even mean? Like judgment, removal?
It's interpreted by some as hinting at an end to the current conflicts, maybe even capital punishment for the worst offenders, who then transition somehow to these 4D negative realms, removed from our reality plane.
Wow, heavy stuff.
It is. But the overall vision, the grand goal that emerges from all this, it's about moving towards mutually assured trust instead of destruction.
The total flip.
Completely. Halting wars like the one they predicted would end in Central Europe, Ukraine maybe, and taking down these barricades of negativity.
To allow for an easy passage into the fourth density.
That's the goal. A smooth transition, if possible. A complete paradigm shift from conflict to, well, cooperation and higher consciousness.
And it's fascinating how this ties into much older prophecies too, isn't it?
Yeah, like Nostradamus, the Virgin Mary appearances at Fatima, Garabandal.
They all seem to foretell something similar, right? A non-catastrophic solar flash.
Exactly. Something that awakens the immoral soul, imparts cosmic consciousness. It feels like all these different threads across centuries might be pointing to the same culmination.
So what's the ultimate destination here, according to these sources?
The ultimate goal sounds like something straight out of science fiction almost. A galactic ET human family reunion.
This year, after the arrests.
That's what some interpretations suggest, leading to that social memory complex we talked about.
Beyond the internet, like global telepathy.
Yeah, a shared consciousness. All apparently powered by solar energy in this new reality, which, leads you to wonder, are we actually ready for that as a species?
It's certainly compelling when you look at the sheer volume of these prophecies and the specific ways the source material connects them to what's happening, especially just this past week or so. The patterns described, the consistency, it's definitely thought-provoking, makes it harder to just dismiss outright.
Absolutely. And the implications for you, for everyone listening, they're immense if this is accurate. These sources describe a monumental shift away from a world defined by conflict and secrets, towards one of peace and everlasting love, where consciousness itself is waking up, and humanity might be right on the edge of something truly astonishing, a transformation beyond our wildest dreams, maybe.
So the question for all of us then becomes, what's our role in embracing this potential new reality? How do we prepare ourselves for what some are calling the dawn of a golden age? And amidst all the chaos and uncertainty, remember the core message that comes through again and again in these texts. You are loved more than you could ever possibly imagine.